Does your child struggle with big emotions, and when they do, you feel a little lost and unsure of how to respond in a way that's going to be effective? In this video, I'm going to show you a specific strategy you can use today with your kid to help them navigate big emotions more successfully. And that skill is called getting curious. I want to help you get curious about your child when they start struggling with big emotions so you can better help them and support them as they navigate those emotions. So there's two ways that you can get curious. There's what I would call backstage getting curious, and then there's on stage getting curious. So backstage curiosity is something you probably do a lot of already. This is when things are over, you're not in the moment, your kid is calmed down, they're moved on, and you're sort of alone with your thoughts, and you start asking yourself, what just happened here? We can use that time effectively when we get curious. The first thing is we want to start asking the why question. Why did that happen? Why did that emotion come out? And we can talk with just ourselves, we might talk with our spouse, but we want to ask why. We also want to look at what else was going on around the emotion. So, what preceded this outburst, this sudden panic, this sudden outrage with anger, or whatever it might be? What was just before that? What was going on before that? Because sometimes we might start noticing patterns, and that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for patterns in behaviors to give us a clue about what's going on inside the heart. Let me give you a few patterns you might look for. You might notice a pattern such as the time of day. I had a family who noticed their child woke up from nap super cranky all the time. And at first it was just, oh, my child's a crank. And I was like, well, hold on, that's not the best way to talk about a kid. And let's start looking for patterns. And they noticed, well, it really was just after nap. And they started greeting their child when their child woke up from nap with a cup of juice. And suddenly their child wasn't struggling with feeling cranky as much. They think what was going on was maybe there was like just their blood sugar just needed a little bit of help there, and that little cup did it. They wouldn't have been able to do that had they not gotten curious and asked why and what's going on. So time of day might be a pattern you notice. You might notice a pattern such as specific foods in your child's diet. You might notice every time you get into sugary sweets, or every time your child has a lot of food dye, suddenly emotions get bigger. And I had one family I was working with who literally could sit down when their child started getting really big with emotions and suddenly go, okay, what did we eat this week? And they would go back and suddenly be like, oh, wait, last night we were at that barbecue and he was over at the dessert table. And so they really got this like keyed in here and figured out exactly what it was for their child. Sometimes you might notice the patterns with activities, such as your child might react negatively when they have blocked goals. Maybe it's not blocked goals. Maybe it's unmet expectations. You might have a child who makes a laundry list of their agenda for the day, and if something on that agenda doesn't happen, oh boy, hold on tight. You might notice that, but we don't know that if we're not getting curious and saying, what else is going on here? Your child is going to tell you sometimes, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm whatever, because you want to hear what they have to say, but you still want to go backstage and consider what they say versus all the other evidence you have. Because sometimes children are not accurate in reporting why they feel certain ways. Other times they're giving us huge insights, but we're going to look at the other evidence backstage and get a little curious that way. The big thing to do, though, when we get curious backstage is to actually do something with it in the future. We want to start using specific heart tools that I talk about all the time on this channel with our children. So we might start coaching our child in a certain direction or teaching them a specific skill about how to respond when they get a negative response from a friend or from a sibling. We might need to show our child a specific strategy they can use. We might need to encourage them, transfer responsibility to them, show them how they can pray in a certain situation or actually pray with them about a specific situation. But we don't know how to do all that until we start getting curious at first and thinking about what's going on. Then we try different strategies out with our kids. As for getting curious on stage, this is the power strategy that I think is going to really change things for you. When your child is suddenly just has this big emotion come on, they suddenly start to worry or panic, or they get angry and explosive or whatever it might be, A lot of times in those situations, us parents start struggling with our emotions because we kind of want to help them, but we also kind of want to settle this thing down, or we go all over the place at times too. We need to manage ourselves in those situations. We need to be a calm presence in that situation so we can help that child regulate their emotions. We can offer some co-regulation at that point. But when our kid suddenly does this, we sometimes don't know how to respond. Getting curious can really help. So here's what I want you to do. First way to get curious is I want you to close the physical gap between you and your child. That can look lots of different ways. That could include you putting your hand on your child's back and rubbing their back a little bit, putting your hand on their shoulder, maybe taking their hands in your hands and saying, why don't you give me your hands? It could be a hug, some physical way of closing that gap, because when we're getting curious, what we're trying to do in that situation is we're trying to remain non-threatening, non-judgmental. We're trying to be connecting. Even when we're correcting, we should be connecting. Even when our child is struggling with emotions, we should be connecting. And so we're trying to offer that to our child in that situation. So getting close in non-judgmental, non-threatening ways can really help us as we start to get curious. Now, the second thing you're going to do is you're going to use some sort of a scripted statement. This scripted statement is going to help you in the situation. If you're someone who does struggle with emotions yourself, you're really going to want to have like just a go-to statement you say when your child struggles. You want it to be genuine, but you want to know it well. Let me give you a few right here. What we're doing with these scripted statements is we are trying to help raise our child's awareness to what's going on. They need to start picking up the body signals that they're putting out at that point, because we can see they're getting upset, frustrated, angry, sad, whatever it might be. We can see it. How can you see it? What's your kid doing? What's your kid's body telling you? That's what you're going to say back to your child. So you're going to say something like, I noticed that you, and say what your child's doing. I noticed that you are tapping your foot quickly and looking around and asking lots of questions. Right? Or I noticed that your shoulders are shrugged and you're starting to grit your teeth and your eyebrows are down. Whatever the body's doing, say that to your child. I noticed that you, Then ask a question. A question like, what feeling are you having right now? Or what emotion is that? Now you might say, my kid's not going to be able to answer that question. Okay, offer them. You know, we always try to transfer responsibility to kids, but sometimes we need to scaffold it a little bit. So you could say, hey, I noticed that your body is doing this. Are you feeling this or are you feeling that? And offer them two choices that it probably is one of those. You might not get it perfect, but you're going to come pretty close because you're a smart adult and a parent and you know how to read your kid. So offer them two choices there. Your kid might take one of those choices. Your kid might say, it's not either, it's this instead. Great. We want to help our children notice what their body signals are sending them and connecting those signals to specific words, emotion words, so they can start realizing it. Because the sooner in the process, then this is a long-term goal, the sooner in the process that your child can start hearing their own body signals and realizing, I'm getting angry, I'm getting upset, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting worried, whatever it might be, the sooner in the process they can pick that up, the better they have of a chance of successfully navigating that emotion, because they're going to prevent it from getting super big, because they're going to pick up on it sooner, and you're going to have helped them develop specific strategies to use when they start experiencing that emotion. So we're going to get curious by asking lots of questions like this. And again, if we just say what emotion is or how you feeling after we've said the specific body signals, and they can't, we could scaffold it with two choices there. Maybe your child's gonna struggle with picking. Okay, we can take back a little bit more responsibility and we can name a specific emotion. I noticed that you are, and say what their body's doing, are you feeling this? And just name a specific emotion. So now they only have one choice and it's yes or no at that point. My kids still might struggle with that. Okay, don't ask the question, just tell them. I noticed that your body is doing these things. That's usually a sign that you're feeling, and tell them that. Tell them that feeling that they're feeling at that point, or at least just say, that's usually a sign that you're feeling this. What you're doing is, again, if we can just ask, hey, how are you feeling based on what I'm telling you I'm seeing, that's the highest level, right? Because we're offering the least amount of support. But if our child needs us to name an emotion for them at this point, that's okay. We can do that for them. It's a good thing. You might even use, if you've heard of zones of regulation, and you can just Google that and you'll see all kinds of things, or get the little free resource I have linked down below, and it's in there too. You can use that language as well. Hey, what color zone are you in right now? Are you in a red zone? Are you in a yellow zone, blue zone, green zone? There's only 4 zones, and some of them, they know they're not in at that point. It's great language, great verbiage that can really help your child move forward. Now, if this idea of getting curious is sort of exploding your mind a little bit and you're like, oh, now I know how to respond when my kid starts getting frustrated or upset or worried or whatever it is, go ahead and hit that like button on this video so I know this is helping you. Now, if you're getting curious and it's not working, because I know some of you are watching this video and you're thinking, yeah, no, I'm going to do that. My kid's going to go higher up. They're going to get more angry. They're going to get more worried. They're going to go higher. That's an example of when we need to switch strategies. Getting curious is only one strategy we can use. There's lots of good parenting strategies out there. Getting curious is a really effective one. It helps us stay connected with our children, and they see us as being on their team in this struggle they're having to navigate this big emotion. We're not against them. We're on their side in this. So if it's not working and they're getting bigger, that's a sign that we need to switch strategies to calming strategies at that point. Our child needs to go take a break. They need to calm down. They might need to take a deep breath. They might need to get a glass of water, a hug. There's lots of calming strategies. Taking a break's a great big strategy we use a lot of times where it's not punitive. It's just making space to slow family life down so we can process some emotions, have a little time to reflect, and make a plan. That's the important part. We can't use calming strategies and just get the kid calmed down or get child to settle and then go back to what we were doing. We need to make a plan to move forward in family life, because if we don't do that, we're going to be back here doing the same thing over and over and over again. We already know we're going to be back here doing this again because our child's heart might be struggling with this specific emotion, and it's not going to be mastered with just one time using a strategy. We're going to need to do this a lot of times to develop patterns in their hearts. So we know we're going to be back here anyway, but let's reduce the number of times we come back here to do this all over again by working on specific strategies, specific plans we could put in place, plans for success. Okay, so you were getting frustrated when your sister took the Nintendo controller. What can we do the next time that happens? Instead of throwing the Nintendo across the room or whatever they did, what can we do instead? Let's come up with a plan to move together forward positively in family life. And once they do, all right, we can go try again. That's the best thing about all this. If you're finding this really helpful and you really would like a roadmap to sort of help you through this, you want to grab the free parenting resource I have linked down in the description down below. It's not just, another set of printables, you can try a few things out. It truly is a roadmap to show you strategically the steps you can take forward and when to switch strategies to support your child so they can grow in their emotional vocabulary, in their emotional health, in developing plans for how to navigate tricky and big emotions more effectively so that you all can start experiencing more peace in your lives and in family life together. If you want that, grab it in the description down below. And if you're hanging out here on YouTube longer and you'd like to know, what does the Bible really say about emotions and feelings? You want to check out the video I'll link right here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you real soon. Bye, everyone.